Bruce, thank you so much for joining me. We are in a very volatile market right now. What does this mean for the reefer industry?
Chris, thanks for having me again. We all need to eat. Reefer containers moves a lot of the fruit products or fresh products around the world. So I still think the produce or the products will move as they have this year and previous years. And I think going into 23, I expect a more robust reefer demand. I do expect that there'll be some price normalization. So rates will normalize to a more reasonable extent, but I don't think it'll go to the pre-pandemic levels.
I'll come back to the pricing in just a minute, but I'd just like to hear if you have any insights into, how do companies then in the reefer industry, how do they prepare for this?
Yeah, Chris, probably the biggest challenge I think is about being able to respond to agricultural products. The reality is rains are late or fish swim too deep or the like, which impacts the ability to harvest or catch. So I think the big one is making sure that your logistics or supply chain is scaled or rather agile or flexible to the operating reality that we find ourselves in. The second part is this forecasting. It's not an exact science. I'd maybe say it's an art, but we need to have a view so that we can make sure that there's sufficient logistics infrastructure in place to help to deliver the end-to-end flow of the goods and hence to the customer, to your customers' outcomes.
And then back to the pricing. I mean, there are numerous indices which indicate the prices of what it takes to move a container from A to B. Are there some of these indices that are more relevant to the reefer business than others?
I think there is. The one that the indices that's most in the press is SCFI, Shanghai Container Freight Index. That's very dominant east-west. Not really a fair representation of reefer. Reefer ships more in the north-south trades, and I think that's a better example of reefer market development. There is delay in indices, of course, but I think that's a better reflection of the market, where it gives you a split between dry and reefer, and then we can actually compact it or make it more specific to a particular client's business to be reflective of their market they'll trade in or work in.
And finally, I'd just like to go back to some of the things you mentioned in the beginning. We are at the end of 2022. How do you think that companies in the reefer industry best prepare for, the coming months, 2023?
Sure. Looking ahead to 23, we're in contracting season at the moment, so I think it's a relevant time to plan a couple of things. Plan that you have the right logistics service provider who can help you manage the normal agricultural flow and the volatility of it. That's one. Second, that's agile to the possible change in sourcing patterns or demand patterns. So how do you make sure that you can respond so that your product still hits a market and you get the return back to the farm's gate? And last one is going to be a price discussion. That I don't know what that price is going to be. It's going to normalize for sure. Yeah. The trick is the market will determine that price. No individual party will. And at the end of the day, the fruit needs to pay to make it a healthy business model for all stakeholders in the value chain.
Thank you so much for joining me, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce.